Do you really think as a historical matter, America has never been a racist country?
When you look at, the Declaration of Independence, it was that, men are created equal with unalienable rights, right? That was what we all knew. But what I look at it as is I was a brown girl that grew up in a small rural town. We had plenty of racism that we had to deal with. But my parents never said we lived in a racist country.
We're in like day 4 of Nikki Haley's America Has Never Been a Racist Country tour, and it's going about as well as it was on day 1. She, by the way, as all of this is going on, insisting against all evidence that America has no racist past, is being attacked in an explicitly racist fashion by Donald Trump. And we will get to that, but we want to focus on what she said there in the town hall that she did with Jake Tapper. She said, in the Declaration of Independence, all men are created equal. And then I didn't look it up, but I assume everything went well after that, right?
Oh, yeah, just fine. It's a good thing she didn't read the merciless savages parts about the Indians, because that might have altered her perception about never any history of racism. But this is Nikki Haley. I'm going to miss this like I miss Michelle Bachmann's campaign. When you think about it, sexism is alive and well when Nikki Haley's gender is the only thing keeping her from taken seriously as an empty suit politician with nothing to say. The new racism in the Republican Party is the denial that racism exists. And Nikki Haley has to appeal to people who think the Civil War was just fine, it had nothing to do with slavery. She knows exactly what she's doing. One time, okay, maybe you screwed up, you didn't think the Civil War had anything to do with slavery. This is quite deliberate. And this is for a party that is more outraged by protests of racism than actual racism, the party that is more upset about Colin Kaepernick's knee than Derek Chauvin's.
Jordan.
So later in that segment, she also talks about, their intent was never to be, it was never to be a racist country. And sure, they had to fix some things along the way. Those are two totally different groups of people she's talking about. She's conflating the framers who wrote the 3/5 compromise, which said black Americans or black people at the time are 3/5 of a whole person. And then the 14th Amendment, which came almost 100 years later. Those aren't the same people. So the intent explicitly was there. And it's an unforced error that she's now defining her campaign going into New Hampshire, where maybe she's got a little bit of a chance to chip away at Trump. There are people who don't like him. I don't know if she's gonna pull it off. I doubt it. But her whole campaign is now responding to this controversy. She brought this upon herself. She continues to double down. It's just truly staggering, just mismanagement, poor political instincts throughout her whole campaign.
Yeah. Oh, I disagree. I think it's an excellent audition to be Donald Trump's running mate. She's doing everything she has to do and jumping through every hoop perfectly. Yeah.
Yeah. Look, I think we're rightly critiquing her performance.
The voters she's trying to reach do not care about her racist statements. They don't mind it one bit. She's trying to appeal to them and forgive it.
They want to be reassured that America is not and has never been racist, and that's largely what she's doing there. She's
nothing
trying to
racist about the Confederacy. No, feel good about that.
Well, and by the way, Jake Tapper, he knew she was going to say that. He's after all asking a follow-up to something she said a few days ago. She obviously is going to change her position, so what she's going to say. So he has note cards. Maybe he could have a few instances of racism in American history, internments and the like. But I'm assuming they would consider that to be too opinionated, too partisan to mention Jim Crow, slavery, the internment, all redlining. Can we?
Barack
we can go through the list.
Birthplace.
100%, yeah. Or perhaps the comments from Donald Trump about her, and we will get to those. But there was another question, and it had to do with comments made by Joy Reid about how she did in Iowa. So let's jump to that.
She's still a brown lady that's got to try to win in a party that is deeply anti-immigrant and which accepts the notion that you can say immigrants are poisoning the blood of our country. She's getting, birthered by Donald Trump. And I don't care how much the donor class likes her, which will ramp up a lot the better she does in New Hampshire. So it's still a challenge. I don't see how she becomes the nominee of that party with Donald Trump still around.
Joy Reid lives in a different America than I do. I mean, yes, I'm a brown girl that grew up in a small rural town in South Carolina, who became the first female minority governor in history, who became a UN ambassador, and who is now running for president. If that's not the American dream, I don't know what is. You can sit there and give me all the reasons why you think I can't do this. I will continue to defy everybody on why we can do this, and we will get it done.
Are you a racist party? Are you involved in a racist party?
No. We're not a racist racist country, Brian. We've never been a racist country.
Ask a human, are you a racist party? Are you okay, Brian Kilmeade? What is going on with you? But anyway, yeah, yes, it is great that she was able to get elected. And no, not every single Republican is a racist or is a racist on the same level. That is definitely true. But racism is not and cannot be disproven by exceptions, by individual experiences. That's not how it works. And the fact that she is so clearly running scared from racists in her own base, that puts the lie to everything she's saying. You would not act the way she is acting unless you knew full well what the Republican base was like, and she's making clear that she understands it.
Yeah, I think she's doing quite well. I don't consider any of this to be a mistake on her part. I think this is her auditioning for a man she despises and who despises her back to work with him very closely for the next 6 years, and it's just a gift to fans of comedy everywhere.
Throughout her comments on this issue, she's talked about her personal experience, and she talks about how her parents never told her it was a racist country, despite experiencing racism in South Carolina as a person of color. And it's foolish to think that, sure, my personal anecdote informs the entire experience for Black or Indian or whatever ethnic minority in this country, that they too could succeed or excel in life if they just refuse to accept that this is a racist country. Well, you're experiencing it. She acknowledged she experienced it. And that's to deny the same experience that any other successful or striving person of color in this country has. It's just, you can't apply your anecdote to a national experience, especially on an issue with such a terrible legacy in this country like race.
But doesn't it depend on the room she's playing to?
For sure.
Because she'll say whatever she needs to say to get applause in the room she's in. So you're exactly right. Successful Black people in this country know what it means to succeed in a society that still has the vestiges of apartheid. I mean, we've only been apartheid free for 60 years. And she knows it, but she's not gonna get elected being moral. She's gonna get elected feeding the grievance complexes of people who don't care about racism and don't wanna be bothered with this. This is the people who are more upset that we have a Black Lives Matter movement than they are upset that we need a Black Lives Matter movement.
100%. Yeah, and she is clearly, it would be easy to write off the earlier comments about the Civil War to ignorance or whatever, but no, she's an intelligent woman, both intelligent enough to know that what she's saying is untrue, and also clearly she has the savvy necessary to know who the party is, and she is trying, and it's difficult to thread the needle of running against Donald Trump, raising your profile enough that he would want to bring you on, but not offending him or hurting his fee-fees enough that he would deny you the spot, and she's trying to get that done.
And she did this the same day her fellow South Carolinian, the great Senator Tim Scott, endorsed Donald Trump. After he came out there on January 6th when they had a Confederate flag in our capital, when they were trying to throw out the votes of Black voters in Arizona and Pennsylvania in service of a man who began his political career by spreading a lie for years, the first Black president, one of us, and it happened in a building built by slaves. And Tim Scott, in his audition, said, America's not a racist country. They're the exact same person having the exact same audition. She's not running against Ron DeSantis, she's running against Tim Scott.
And I think we all agree she's really doesn't have a chance. But she's trying to do this kind of like racism light. And you see this in campaigns all over, on all sides of the spectrum. You'll see Democrats who try to be more moderate, try to appeal to right-wing voters. And it never works. They pick up things like explicitly right-wing policy positions thinking that they'll pull voters. What she's trying to do is, she, up until this point, tried to run a pretty distinct campaign from Trump because she knew if she had a chance, that would be her only avenue. She's got a way more traditional foreign policy. She's way more just basic standard, what we understood over the past couple decades as a conservative. She models that old guard. Now she's trying to do the, well, you know what, maybe racism isn't real. Maybe these things aren't that big of a deal because it's not working. What she had been doing until this point is not working. So she's throwing a Hail Mary thinking, hey, maybe if I just dabble in racism light, I might get some more votes.
Yeah, or that I might demonstrate to Trump, I can be your shield against accusations of both racism and misogyny. Maybe I can distract a little bit from the fact that you've already been found guilty of sexual abuse and all that. That would be a useful skill, I suppose.
She hasn't heard about that, by the way. She doesn't know anything about that.
I know, it's all hypothetical. Everything's in the future, even the ones that are in the past.
News travels slow to South Carolina, and the fact that Donald Trump was convicted by a jury of Americans hasn't quite made it to Nikki's headquarters
from months ago.
Thanks for watching. If you become a member, you get to watch all this ad-free, except for, of course, this ad. Still, hit the join button below.